Hello, everyone. Welcome to AU4H Radio Real Talk with Donna, Lee, and myself, Laurie. We're glad to be here tonight. This is a very important topic that we're discussing here tonight. Really taking a look at mental health awareness. Donna is going to ask Lee and myself some questions. We're going to answer, and just to give you, a little bit of an insight into what we've dealt with in our own lives, and just to promote mental health awareness. So I'm really glad to be here. And a big shout out and thanks to everybody who's been listening to our shows and following our work, and we really appreciate it. Hopefully, the material is helpful for you. Leave us a comment. Be sure and let us know what you think, and if the shows are valuable, or if there's a topic that you'd like to see discussed, or information that we can bring out, to you, because that's what this show is really all about: people helping people. And we want to make a difference. Advocates United for Humanity, that's what it's all about. We're here to be, a public service, and we really just want to be another voice, a helpful voice for people out there. So hopefully you're getting something out of this. We do appreciate, like I said, everybody who's commented and taken the time to contact us to let us know what you think. And we're really glad to be here again tonight. All right, ladies, we can get started.
I'm really excited about tonight because mental health is very common in the United States. 1 in 5 Americans suffer from some sort of mental illness throughout their lifetime. In 2019, there was 51.9 million people that had one type of mental illness or another, from very mild to very serious. So to me, it's a topic I think that needs to be talked about. We have to break the stigma, and we have to let people know that it's okay. And we don't have to be afraid to talk about mental health, because so many people deal with it. I know myself, I deal with anxiety. And there's times, like before we come on the show, like I'm just about having a panic attack because it gets the best of me. Other times I come on and it's a breeze, and it depends on how my day's going, how I'm taking care of myself. And again, it all boils down to mental health. So tonight I thought it would be a good idea to talk about mental health and living with the healthy, positive role model. And I see both you and Lee as positive role models in my lives and other people's lives. Both of you are great mentors. You're great voices, and people respect you, and I do, and I love you as well. So I just thought it would be really cool to take the night, ask some questions, and I wanted to see the similarities and the differences with people who deal with mental health.
Yeah, that's great.
Many people they go through many trials and tribulations in their life, and everyone is different, and everyone sees things differently, and everyone heals differently. And I've heard so many people say when they deal with mental health or mental illness that, it's dark. And to me, I want them to see light at the end of the tunnel. I want them to know that it's going to be okay. And I think the more that we talk about it, the better it is. And the first step into making it better for all of us is for people that, just like myself, I deal with anxiety. And it's like, I think it's better that I come out and say I do, rather than hide it and deal with it in shame or private, because I don't want people to know. Mm-hmm. So, and I know that you and Lee have both had many, valleys in your life that you have gone through. And I just think that it would be really nice that we show the people that we are human, just like them. Our lives are not perfect. We too have our own struggles and challenges, So I just thought it would be a really good idea tonight. So if you're ready, question number one.
I'm ready.
From your point of view, what is self-harm, and have you ever personally experienced it?
Self-harm. Well, I've, along my healing journey, healing from child abuse, I experienced some self-harm, definitely, but I didn't call it self-harm, and I never would have thought of it as self-harm before I started my healing journey. I did do some self-harm, and especially in my early teens, and even into my early 20s. I really didn't think of it as self harm, but now that I look back on it, it was self harm. Definitely was hurting myself using drugs and doing a lot of drugs and really harmful drugs. And wasn't concerned if I overdosed or, had car accidents or anything, because that was my life. My life was hectic and it was a lot of crisis. I grew up in crisis, so I was just continuing on the crisis all the way through my teens and into my 20s, early 20s. And then I realized, if I was going to live, I needed to change that behavior. So I got off the drugs, and but didn't do any real work towards my healing journey. But self harm, I now look back at it and I think, yeah, that was definitely self harm, and I really was doing that for a purpose. Some of it was I look back at it now and I think some of it was to escape the abuse. One way was for me to be high, and that was just so that I could be a different person on the drugs, and I could be someone else.
Yeah.
Not that scared little, you know, unwanted girl that I really was. I could be the party girl, the crazy girl. It gave me a little bit of an alter ID,
Yeah.
some different personality. Yeah, so I'm glad that I was able to get off the drugs, and I'm very thankful, very very thankful. But I didn't do any cutting or anything like that. But when I started to look into self harm and really what it is, um, I realized that I was doing some self harm. Not a whole lot. I didn't do any cutting or anything like that, but I did want to harm myself.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to hurt myself even later. Just around before I started my healing journey, I was wanting to self injure, and you know, it's hard. It's very very hard. I think it was because I was feeling too much pain. I know that I've read a lot about self harm, and a lot of self harm is, especially cutting and things like that, is done to actually feel something because the person can't feel, so they do that so they can feel. For me, I
Hmm.
was feeling too much and wanting to um, sort of self destruct. So it was a little bit different in my case, but either way, it's self harm,
Yeah.
and so I've dealt with it absolutely.
Me. Okay. Self harm. I look back now. I did a lot of emotional eating and trying to escape the pain and drinking when I was very, very young. I wasn't, but probably about 11 years old when I started drinking. But, and I that turned out really badly because um, I had a lot of times. I had more than once. I had about 3 or 4 times that I remember that I had alcohol poisoning, and I was really terrified I was going to die.
Oh
But
wow.
that didn't keep me from continuing to drink. But the drinking and the eating, and it's putting, for me, it was like I would eat anything that I could put in my mouth, just to. Food was always there. Usually it was sweets, though. It was sweets, candies, cookies, cakes, cupcakes, all sorts of things. When we're
Yeah.
talking self harm, the first thing I actually think of, even before that, is that there were times when I was about to dissociate. I wasn't intentionally going to hurt myself. I had no ideations of suicide at that point. However, I did a lot of self harm um, with an instrument, with broken glass. I have a lot of people are ashamed of their scars and they don't want to show it, and it's gone, it's past. And for a long time, I would wear long sleeves. And I don't care if it was 90 out, but I got to eventually say, I'm hot, I'm going to be comfortable. The scars are there, and it may strike a conversation with someone who has experienced what I experienced, and maybe we can connect. But I have a lot of scars, especially on this arm. I mean, I couldn't even count them right now. They're there, they're here, mostly here. There's some on the other arm, um, and that I didn't even feel that there was no pain. I was starting to dissociate. I felt like I was I felt like my skin was frozen. You know, it's in my skin, my feelings. I couldn't feel anything at all, and that would happen. Self harm that way. A lot of people are under the false impression that anybody that self harms is suicidal, and that's I have learned that is absolutely not true. Um, for Not for all of us. Self harm is a way. For me, I learned it was a way of dealing with the pain that was stuffed way, way down inside of me. Um, and then it got to the point where there was so much pain and there was nowhere to put it. There was no way to deal with it. And the self harming would actually free some of that pain. It's kind of hard to explain to some people. But that's what happened. For me, it was a way of being able to cope with the pain that was inside that I couldn't get out any other way. I didn't have any really great coping skills at that point. Um, and I was dealing with a lot of depression, anxiety, panic attacks, PTSD from all the abuses that I had experienced up until that point. It's There's also, and what I didn't realize is that, when you have a wound and you're constantly picking at the scars as it's healing, and you're constantly picking at the scars, and I did a lot of that. That is considered self harm as well, and I really didn't even think of that. I didn't put that into the same category, you know. But I did a lot of that for a long time. So yeah, I experienced that for many years. I have been free of that particular self harm since prior to moving up where I'm at now. So that was probably early 2006. So
That's
it
great.
doesn't always lead to, it's not always a cry for help that somebody is going to be suicidal, that they want to take their life. Sometimes it's a coping skill. Although it's not a very good coping skill, sometimes it's all we can do at that point in time. Um, so that's where my experience with it. The food. I've also, before I moved up here, I was engaging in a lot of risky behavior. I'm not going to share, the details aren't needed, but there was risky behavior that could have actually gotten me killed. And I kind of really didn't care. It was just, the way I felt at that particular point in time. That I just kind of did what I was doing. Like I said, risky behavior, meeting people offline is one, and it didn't matter who I met. So uh, there's a there's a shame with people, wanting, not admitting it, not talking about it, but we've got to be able to stamp out the stigma that's associated with mental illness with anybody that's struggling, so
That's
that
right.
we can all get on that healing journey and we can find some inner peace and some healing. So
That's
I'm
right.
I'm really grateful to be here in
Mhm.
this
Well, me
world.
too.
Grateful that you're here.
It's crazy,
That's
but I'm
right.
grateful to be here.
Okay, question number 2. When someone's in a suicidal state, they are in a very dark place. Have you ever been in a similar state?
Yes. Suicidal ideation was a problem for me. And I grew up, both of my parents were suicidal. My dad was actually suicidal to the point where he would try to kill himself. Um, and my mom had suicidal ideation. So suicide was part of the normal conversation in our home, unfortunately. Um, I was definitely suicidal. I was quite often after, especially my teens, late teens, kind of almost looking for ways, from the time I was 10, I realized that I felt dead, and I really didn't care if I lived or died. But that was part of me. The other part of me said, no, we got to keep going. And that was always the case for me. It was hard, definitely hard. I struggled with that for many years. I didn't reach out and get any help. I was in a very dark place, and I would go to those dark places. I never spent, years in those dark places. I grew up abused, and I had to learn how to cope enough to get through life. So, I'd put it away, shove it down, go deal with life, whatever I had to do, and then I would hit these points, these low points, where maybe too much happening around me, too many things going on, too many crises or something. And I would hit these low points, and the memories would start coming back of the abuse and just the whole tragedy that was my youth and my childhood, and which would then cause me to want to commit suicide all over again. And I went on this cycle for years, and it was really a nightmare of a road trip. Let me tell you. I won't go into details about how I planned my suicides or what I planned to do, because that's just not necessary. But I have talked about a little bit on my own stuff. But the thing is, something would always stop me, and I'd say no, because two of my brothers killed themselves, and when they were in their 30s, mid 30s, and that broke my heart. Not together. They weren't together when they committed suicide. This was several years apart. One committed suicide, and so many years later, another one committed suicide, both in their mid 30s. So they didn't make it past their mid 30s. And to me, that was just devastating. And I knew what that did to my heart. Just trying to cope from the loss that I was experiencing because they killed themselves, because they were abused. I knew what they grew up. They grew up in the same house I did, so I saw what they went through, and it just broke my heart. And I thought, I can't do that to my remaining family members. It would always make me sort of let go of this whole idea of committing suicide, but that was always in my mind, in the back of my mind. And finally, I hit rock bottom, to the very darkest place I've ever been at the age of 42. And sometimes they say that's like a break, maybe I was having a breakdown, but actually I've had many counselors and therapists tell me that it was a breakthrough, because I finally got to the place where I realized I couldn't do it alone anymore. And I really needed to reach out, and have some people help me pull me up out of the pit. And so I did. And I'm so thankful, because that started my healing journey. And life has gotten better. It's gotten a lot better. I know there's people out there that aren't out there, to hurt me. I know there's good people out there, and now would I reach out for help? Knowing, for counseling or a therapist, knowing now after speaking to so many that do care and are caring individuals, I would definitely go see a counselor or therapist. So now, I made a promise to myself. Actually made a promise to God, but I made a promise to myself that if I ever got that far down again, ever, didn't matter how old I was, 75 years old, whatever, if I ever got to that point again, I was going to make a phone call. I'm going to stay alive, and I'm going to do this. And so that's my main message to everybody out there. I'm really glad that I stuck it out. Absolutely. I wish my brothers would have too. Yeah.
Laurie, there's no shame in asking for help. A lot of people think that if you ask for help, that it's embarrassing or it's shameful. And to me, it's not. Because at one point in time in our lives, we all need help.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, there is no shame in asking for help, but there's a stigma that's out there that prevents a lot of us from reaching out for help. Um, Talk about being in a very low and dark place. The only word that I could connect to the way I felt was I was in an abyss. I was in an abyss. There was absolutely no light. It was pitch black. There was not a glimmer of light, nothing. And I was 14 years old when that started, and I contemplated taking my life every single day until I was 18 years old. So 4 years of daily thoughts of taking my own life.
Sad.
I never shared that with anybody then. The only two people I believe would ever miss me would have been my mom and my grandfather, who they were both, amazing people and my best friends. I As hard as it is to say this, I was never I never felt close to my siblings. I'm the oldest, but it was being born without my twin. Um, that leaves me, automatically feeling disconnected from everybody. Um, but it's really hard. I thought every day, it's like, well, who would miss me? Nobody will miss me. And then I think of mom, and then I think of my grandfather. But that was due, to the culmination of everything, the suicidal thoughts. It was due to the culmination of everything up to that point, and including the um, the assault I experienced when I was 14. It was right after that, after the gang assault, that I contemplated taking my own life. It I was raised Catholic, so it's like, it didn't even occur to me, I wasn't even in my thought process that, okay, well, raised Catholic, it's a sin, to take your own life. That didn't even come into, my thoughts. It was just mom and my grandfather. But still, I continued for years to think about taking my own life. And the only thing that stopped me was finding out I was pregnant with my son. And it's like, I think that because he is very,
It's okay.
that gift of life from God really saved my life.
Hmm.
My son is my lifesaver, because at the moment I found out I was pregnant, and that was 2 weeks before I was supposed to get married. And it just, all thoughts of taking my own life just literally, they disintegrated. They didn't just go to the back burner, or in the box in the back of the closet. They literally disintegrated, because now I had a life that was depending on me.
Hmm.
And I still struggle over the years. I do. I deal with a lot of depression, anxiety, PTSD.
It's okay.
I get like this emotional, I know. Um, and it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to
Yes.
cry. They're good
That's right.
tears. They're happy tears.
Hugs, sissy.
But it's still an emotional experience. Yeah, because um, I didn't think there was any other way out of, what I was dealing with, because nobody had listened to me at that point, with what I was able to tell with my actions, and the one visit to the family doctor, which didn't really do a lot of good. Um, but there is there's something I wrote years ago that was actually published in the college literary magazine in the mid '90s, when I went to college, and it was a poem called the the darkness and the darkness of the depression. I'm sorry. It was called Depression, and I I just poured my heart out, without thought, on how I felt, and that was, in the abyss. I couldn't find my way out. It was dark. All the rungs on the ladder were broken. The walls are made of thick steel. I had one young college man actually come up to me as that book came out. I was part of a class that put the book together, and he looked at that book, and he looked at it, and he looked at me, and he just, I didn't think anybody understood. I didn't think anybody
Yeah.
understood where I was. He said, "That's it. That is it." And like, that was powerful to know that somebody else experienced what I was going through. And that was a really big help. So, it's hard sometimes when to think of anything else when you're in those suicidal thoughts. Um, it really is. It's just a really, really dark place. Um, that I never thought I'd find my way out of. But I ended up getting help, and for me, I needed some medication, and within the first week, there was just a spark, just a glimmer, but I could see light,
Mhm.
and that gave me some hope. And then going into therapy, and I don't recall knowing of any resources back then that we do have now. There just wasn't an access to resources, and that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem because it still continues today. The lack of accessibility, and especially I wasn't deaf at that point. I was dealing with hearing loss, but for the deaf community, and it just shares like for the deaf community, there's such a lack of resources, even more than what any more than what was I'm losing words. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Between the end of a migraine and just getting real emotional, bear with me. But the lack of resources, it has been a continuing problem for everybody, and most especially for the deaf community,
Mhm.
and other minorities. So, we've got to reach out to one another. We've got to share um, our strength, our experience, our hope, and the steps we're taking on our healing journeys, so that others can find their way. We've got to be the light for them,
Yes.
and that's just what I've been doing, since I came through that.
Okay.
That's awesome.
That is that is very
It's
powerful.
it's real emotional.
It
And that's
is. It
okay.
is. It's an
And that's
emotional
okay.
topic. Yeah.
Question number 3. If someone was considering suicide, what would you tell them to do or give them your own personal advice as to get the help they need? Because so many people, they try to hide it. They don't want people to know. Like I said, they're embarrassed. What would you tell someone that really needed help? How would you encourage them to get the help they need?
Yeah, that's a tough question. It's hard. I know that for myself, we used to try to talk my dad into not killing himself. And it was hard to get him to hear us because my dad was mentally ill. He was schizophrenic, and he was borderline schizophrenic and borderline personality disorder and who knows what else. He was very mentally unwell. And we would try to tell him, that we loved him, all of his children, me and my siblings that were still in the house. There were 2 that were already moved out, but there were 5 children in the home, and we would all talk to my dad and try to get him to want to live and to not try to kill himself, and to try to make him feel good, even though my dad was our abuser. That's what people don't realize about. That's why I tell my story and I'm so vocal. Like, our parents, both of our parents were our abusers, but my dad was abusing us as well. And all of us used to try to help him. My brothers actually used to go and save him from killing himself. Like, he'd go running down the freeway trying to get hit by semi trucks in the middle of the night. And our house actually backed onto a freeway, so that just around the corner was the freeway. So he would run out into the middle of the road in the freeway with big semis coming by trying to get hit, and stark naked. And my brothers would have my teenage brothers would have to go and drag him back home before he got hit by a truck. And we would try to talk to him and tell him, we love you, Dad. And he was just so messed up, and he would not go get help. Um, it's hard if someone is in that state, where they are not able to even cope. They're made, like Lee was saying, she had to get on some meds, and I think my dad needed that. He needed psychiatric treatment.
Mhm.
for me, I just needed somebody to care. I think that I was just down because I never used to talk to anybody about what I had gone through. I never reached out for support. Um, I never told too many people about what I had gone through as a child, and not that closely and not that much. I might have, I did divulge some things to some people, but never really got to the real heavy duty stuff. And it's like, just, I was just wanting somebody to care about me as a person and to just, you know, just sort of be there for me, to say, you know what, it's okay. You've gone through a lot. I still accept you. It's okay. You know what I mean? I was just
Yes.
looking for support. So, you know, I really didn't need somebody. I never actually used to tell anybody that I was suicidal. That's the difference. My brothers, um, they never used to talk about killing themselves, but they used to just attempt it. And that was the same with my dad, and that was really the same with me. And that's why that's dangerous. People that don't go around saying, I'm going to kill myself. Um, Nobody would have known that I was suicidal. I never told anybody that I was suicidal. And so in my adult life, nobody would have known. My mom was always talking about committing suicide. So she was using it sort of as a tool, in the family, within the family system, to manipulate the situation. So she, if
Hmm.
she wanted sympathy, or if she just wanted to take her aggression out on us or whatever, she would use that as a tool. So they both needed psychiatric, or some type of counseling. For me, I definitely think I would have done well to see a counselor or therapist. I didn't trust any counselors or therapists, so I went group support. But what to say to somebody? That's what I've done on my shows, like the stuff that I've done in the past. Apart from AU4H, years ago, back in the old days, and even now, sometimes one child abuse survivor to another and stuff. Talking about suicide, what my main message is to people is to not give up, because for me, look, so many people have been through so much. I'm not, I look around the world and I see what people are going through, what they have gone through, what they're dealing with. People are suffering all around the world from all sorts of different things. And it's a shame to throw our lives away because of what we've been through. That's a shame. Like, um, what I decided to do was live despite of all of that. And it's hard because sometimes I want to give up too. I think that that's kind of a normal response sometimes, is to say, I just want to quit. I just want to give up. I'm tired, but the thing is, it's my fight to win, you know. So I think that's why my main message to people like my followers that listen to my stuff is, don't give up and don't allow what you've been through in your past to ruin the rest of your life.
The dress
You
doesn't
know,
define you.
yeah, like we shouldn't ruin the rest of our lives because what we've been through. That's a shame. I watched my parents do it. I watched my family members do that, and I was like, I just need to not do that. I need to have a good life, and I need to be good to myself and good to other people, and get the help that I need, and not be allow my life to be destroyed because of my past. And that's my main message to people is, to get help. Don't be destroyed by your past. No, that's a shame. My brothers did, and it's a tragedy for me. That they couldn't be reached. They wouldn't be reached.
Very
And
sad.
it is. It is. It's just, and so many people, they just feel that that's the only way. Um, and for me, I just feel like, well, it is hard, and sometimes it's very, very hard, and sometimes it's very, very dark. And then what I remember is that, yeah, tomorrow could be a better day. Tomorrow, and then sometimes it's not. And then I have to say, well, the next day could be a better day, because surviving in this world so many times, it's not easy, for many people, and for most people, I would say. And it's hard, right? These things, life is challenging. It really
It
is.
is. It
And I
is.
think, yeah, it's important when if I'm struggling, like I was struggling today. I'll admit it. So this is perfect timing for the show. because I was struggling not with suicidal ideation, but I was down and already feeling a little bit overwhelmed. I've had a lot of health problems, just kind of cropping up and things going wrong. And then I thought, oh, I just need to relax. I just need to relax.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. It's like, okay, get some help, talk to some friends. And sometimes we don't have friends to talk to. I'm really blessed because I do. But sometimes we don't. And so therefore I would say then you make a phone call to somebody. You don't go down because of the situation in your life. Reach out and get some help.
Yeah.
It's so important. Absolutely. Like I was on my own doing this stuff back when I started my healing journey for, just going through suicidal ideation. At the end of the road, I thought that was it. I thought I couldn't go any further. And I started to reach out and all these hands started to come back to me. And some of those hands were you guys, but there were other people too. And they were like, "You can do this. You can do this." And I had no idea that amount of people actually would care about me. No idea, no concept. So I tell people, that's what I tell people all the time. Just reach out, man. Because people don't know you're suffering a lot of times. People don't know you're
No.
struggling. And even if they saw you, maybe they just don't clue in. You know what I mean? So if you
Yeah.
don't say something, if you don't say, "Look, I need help, man. I really do." And then even then, if they pass you by and they don't take it serious, just keep doing it. You just keep reaching
Yes.
out for help until somebody takes you seriously because it's so important. Your life matters. That's what I want the listeners to understand right now. Your life matters just as much as anybody else.
It
And
does.
it matters to us, it matters to me. So it needs to matter to you. That's my main message. You have to care about yourself, and you have to make that decision. I want to live. I want to do this. And it's hard, no doubt. And there's always going to be those days where it just seems like it's just too hard, but we can do this. That's my answer.
It's not an easy journey by any means, and sometimes it's hard to even think that, okay, I need to pick up the phone, I need to call for help. Um,
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not even in a space where that's an option or a possibility. What I would tell someone is that there is help, there is hope. There are so many of us that are here because we reached out. Um, there's so many people that have made the journey and that are standing by for each one of us. They like with the hands out and just grab a hold of that hand, and we'll bring you into the light. We'll help bring you into the light. I will walk with you. I will sit with you. I am here for you. Um, you matter. Your life matters. You are important. You are precious. And there's we have the National Suicide Hotline, Prevention Hotline, and that's definitely information I would share with somebody. I have I have a friend who on multiple occasions has contacted me over the years when they were at that point, and I was there. I just sat there non-judgmentally. I'm just there. You share with me. Promise me that when we hang up, when we are done, talking, when promise me that we'll talk tomorrow. Okay, you won't do anything tonight. Call me tomorrow, or we'll talk in the morning. Just being there, just knowing that somebody is there, sometimes is all we need. It's not all we need, but that is all we need at that moment to help us back up away from that edge, of the cliff, of the ledge that we're precariously hanging off of by our fingernails.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
it's really difficult when you don't have the resources, when you don't have the support. And now we have multiple numbers that can be called. The national hotline, and There are others, depending on where you live. Um, there is a hotline you can actually call them, and they can refer you to an area near where you live for further help, for further support and guidance. But it's about having somebody there, and just sometimes just listening or just sitting there. I mean, I've sat with somebody there for hours, and nobody's saying anything. Just having that body next to you, with you,
Mm-hmm.
that that means so much.
Mhm.
Knowing that somebody is willing to sit there with you. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. Just let me sit here with you, and just know that I'm here for you. It's really important, just letting someone know that you're there for them. That's the really big thing. I honestly didn't think anybody would be there for me. When I went through this from 14 to 18, but so I didn't really have anybody to tell, and there were other kids going through their own stuff. I mean, if you think about when you grow up, I've learned that more kids than I had originally thought had actually experienced, abuse in the home, and bullying on top of that. And so it's hard for us as kids or as young teenagers to know what to do. You feel kind of lost. You really do. I know I did. I felt lost. I knew of two people who were going through some stuff at home, but I didn't realize how badly it was. I mean, I was in the middle of my own mess too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've had an old friend actually apologize to me through through social media and say, I'm sorry I couldn't do anything back then. I couldn't speak up for you. I was going through stuff too. You know, it hurts to know that there's so many of us going through, wanting to take our own lives. I didn't know anybody personally growing up who did that. One of my siblings did. It was someone who was in either middle or high school, but one of their friends had taken their own life, and what was found in the woods. So that was a pretty difficult time for them, and for me, I felt so heartbroken for the families, and I
Mm-hmm.
think about now how my own mother would feel, how my own mom would feel, and my grandfather if I had taken my life. Um, so just be there for somebody. You just reach out, pick up the phone, and if you see somebody that you've got a friend who is considering suicide, or if you know they're in a dark place, just let them know that you are there for them.
Mm-hmm.
Just sit with them.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything, and sometimes that will help them to reach out and get help, and have the numbers handy of somebody they can contact, when they're ready. It,
Okay, and the final question
that's what I've
is
got there. Yeah.
self-care is huge on many levels. How important is self-care to you in your own mental health?
Self-care is very important. And I'm always working on it. It's something I have to keep working on because I tend to forget about it when I get busy, and then I find out that I shouldn't have forgot about it because I really need to be doing it.
We all do.
Yeah, life kind of gets in the way sometimes, and it's kind of like, oh no, I'm not getting enough rest, and I'm getting overstressed, or I'm putting too many things into my day that's causing me to be frustrated or anxiety or whatever coming on, or whatever these issues are. For me personally, I mainly suffer with depression and anxiety, I suppose, things like that. I become stressed out over certain things. And sometimes it's all because I'm not getting enough rest, or I'm just piling too many things on my day and not making just that enough time to sit and breathe. a friend of mine was actually telling me I need to do breathing exercises because she says I never breathe, and I'm like, you're probably actually right. I really don't. Uh, it's I don't know what it stems from, but um, I find that when I do sit back and do these things like self care things, it does help me to stay um, level, more level in my mental, health and mental wellness. So I can tell when things are starting to get askew, and that's because things are getting a little bit out of control, a little wonky, and all of a sudden I'm feeling overwhelmed. And it's like then I need to go back and sort of say, okay, it's not a crisis. uh, I just need to, get organized or reach out for help or sit back and relax, make sure I take enough time to get rest. It's these little things, eating healthier. It's hard to eat really healthy because healthy foods can be expensive depending on what a person's eating. Um, Sometimes it's just, cheaper to, eat those foods that are not so healthy. Because I know for myself, I'm on such a tight budget, so I really can't afford to eat healthy. But I can make better choices. And so what I've started to do is realize, like, okay, I need to just make some better choices with how I'm spending that food dollar, um, because everything's expensive, and make sure I'm getting plenty of rest. You know. Um, Doing something for myself that I enjoy doing. We've talked about on previous shows. Um, for me, mobility. I have some mobility issues, so moving and walking around is always a problem. So I do things that are basically kind of like that I can do sitting down. So I play guitar and I love to read. I study a lot and that sort of thing. I love music. And just I love to communicate with people, so I do a lot of social media stuff, and it keeps me, doing things that I do enjoy doing. And we can all find some little thing that we like to do. That always helps too. It's important to be good to ourselves, and I think that's what
Mhm.
self care really is all about. Finding things that work for us to help us get through these stressful times or these times where we feel like, oh, I just, for some reason things are just not right. We need to start incorporating things into our lives that can sort of help help us to have a good life. You know what I mean? It's so important. And when I was younger, I used to laugh at all this stuff. I was just like, whatever. But now I'm like, no, this is so important because now I see why people are doing it. I'm like, okay, I guess this is really important. I should have been paying attention a long time ago. So it's, I really wish that I would have been doing this a long time ago. So, but it's just a start someplace. Start someplace. There we go.
And
Self care is so important. In laughing, I'm grateful to have my mama's sense of humor that I can laugh my way through stuff. Sometimes after getting through a good cry, um, but tears are healing too, and
Hmm.
tears are part of self care. Is allowing yourself to feel whatever it is that you're feeling, acknowledge that, and then breathe through it, and then move forward. It's not always, it's definitely not easy in the beginning of your journey. And I still have some days that are a little bit harder than others. But self care, it can be so many different things to each one of us. It can be from indulging in one of your favorite teas. Yogi teas are like my favorite herbal tea. They're a little bit more expensive, and my budget is not, it's not the biggest, but I spend a few extra pennies on myself because this is something that relaxes me. They have different flavors. I love the lavender, which is absolutely relaxing, and they have turmeric. They have different flavors. But having a cup of tea, sometimes it's lighting a scented candle and just sitting and meditating. For me, what also relaxes me is also burning my white sage, and I do a lot of that. This past year, I think I've done more burning of the sage than I have in the whole time that I've done it, that I've been using it. It's been a very stressful year, and what I like to do is I'm trying to eat healthier as well. Um, Maybe having a bowl, I make a big bowl of fruit, now that we're in the spring/summer weather, and we've got the watermelons, the different melons, and, just slice those up, keep them in a big bowl in the fridge, and then treat myself to some of that. Of course, I have to have extra because Otis likes melon, loves melons. I got a strange little boy, but he loves his melons, fruits and veggies. Um, he's something. He is another thing that gets me through and lifts my day and just helps me de-stress and do self-care. Is just sometimes just relaxing with him, or sometimes we just sit out. When it's not too hot, um, sit out on the front patio. He's got his own little chair, and I have mine. But we'll sit out there for hours. And sometimes self care means getting up and shutting everything off except for the computer or laptop, whatever, and binging on Netflix. Some of the favorite shows, or binging on one particular show. I personally have caught myself that, like, oh my goodness, I'm through the first season already. I thought I just sat down. Um, it's just treating yourself with kindness because
Yes.
you deserve it. You
Yeah.
absolutely deserve it, and get to a point in your journey where you can begin living your best life. Things aren't easy,
No.
but
That's
we
right.
need to take care of ourselves, whatever it takes. Some people, I'm not a big bath person, um, but sometimes taking a bath or a hot soak. And if you've got the tub that's big enough, we've got little micro tubs here. But, I could, clawfoot tub, I could go for. I really would, and I would take more baths. But and for me, sometimes it's just taking some lavender essential oil, or I like the Aveeno um, lotion that has lavender in it, and just massaging my feet and legs with it, and my hands and my arms, and just so many things. Like I said, that some of us, we all like have a similar connection. Like we like, the lotions, the essential oils. Um, and just go to the park. Going to the duck park is a big thing for me. It's absolutely huge. That's self-care. That's self-care for me.
Mhm.
Go there, feed the ducks, and my mood is like, it's up 20 points, once I get to the park. And there's so many different things we can do. You can just sit there, no electronics, and just write. Do some free writing, journaling.
Mhm.
Sometimes self-care is just having a 3-hour conversation with one of your best friends. It's um, there's so many things that we can do, but think of what works for you, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we get completely burnt out, and we're absolutely no good, not only to ourselves, but to anybody that would, anybody that may depend on us. Some have kids, some of us have kids or grandkids. Um, Others, it's just, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to fill that cup back up. It's kind of it's a cliche, but it is so true. It's like we can't
Mhm.
pour from an empty cup.
No.
When we're
No,
so
that's right.
empty, we're so drained, we are so stressed, we've got nothing to give. Then we've got to step back and take care of ourselves. It is not selfish.
No,
Self-care is not selfish.
that's right.
We all deserve, you know, to treat ourselves. If that means taking yourself out to a movie, let's sit there and go to a movie, or rent a special DVD. It's doing whatever it is that will lift your mood, that will help you feel better, that will help um, de-stress you. So there's so many different things you can do, and it's really important that we reach out. Um, we reach out and that we take care of ourselves, like eating better, overall health. Sometimes it's going for a walk. If my body was made for running, I would go for a run. I've always wanted to run, but it's important, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard to see that, depending on where we are in the journey. But take care of yourself. You're worth it. You are
Yeah.
absolutely worth it, and then some.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Self-care is anything that makes you feel good about yourself, and we all need it on the good days and the bad days.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Laurie, Lee, I want to thank both of you for sitting down and sharing some of your personal experiences. And I also want to let our listeners know that if there is anyone out there that does need help and needs someone to talk to, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. There's help available. If you have any questions, you can contact us. The information is in the description of this video. We're always here to lend a helping hand. You can check out our website, AU4H.weebly.com. We're always here to listen. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Laurie, Lee, it was a great night, great show. I hope you guys will all join us next week. I really enjoyed tonight. It was a good show. But I hope everyone will, tune back in next week and join us. And together we can and will make a difference. Good night, everyone.
Right. Good night, everybody. Have a great night.